Your questions answered does not constitute an attorney-client relationship. Contact your attorney or other professional to discuss your unique needs before taking any action related to the subjects discussed in this program. Now, here is nationally recognized retirement planning authority and host of national public television program Master Your Future, Rajiv Nagaich.
And welcome to Aging Options. This is elder law attorney Rajiv Nagaich. Another week where we talk about you and your aging. One of the things you just cannot escape, every single day, we are a little bit older than we were yesterday. And if you look at it the other way, you're never going to be as young as you are today.
Oh, so I go the other way, Rajiv. I get younger every day.
I'm still looking for that elixir.
Right?
Brian, maybe you and I should be...
Fountain of youth.
There we go, And so we on Aging Options, we talk about you, your retirement, what your future is going to look like. And we start off each week looking at the stories that Tony Boland, our master crafter of these stories, he just goes up and down the web and looks at stories that you should be focused on. And this week's theme really is estate taxes. Now, the good news up here is many of us are not going to need to worry about estate taxes. But the bad news is there are still going to be a lot of people who will be impacted with estate taxes. So the stories are Trump's new tax law gives the wealthiest families an estate tax gift. What does that really mean? Who is going to benefit? How is that going to impact you? Another story, death and taxes, big changes to Washington state estate taxes now in effect. Now, well, if you live in the state of Washington, we have our own estate tax regime. And that is not nearly as generous as the federal estate tax regime. So what does that mean to you? What do you need to do? So we'll talk about all sorts of different ways that you might be able to protect yourself if you're in that realm, if your estate is large enough. Another story that I think Tony, and I applaud him for bringing this one up, is scam alerts. Steps you need to take to protect yourself online. Oh my God, that's a never-ending litany of things that happen. And the last story, which is a whimsical one, Brian, I don't know whether you noticed this or not, want to live to 100? Don't you dare ask centenarians for advice. Just because somebody else has lived to be 100, just following everything they do may not be the recipe to live to be 100 years of age. And if you go to the blog, last week we had a different story. Last week we said Tony had posted a story about most of us will need long-term care, but how do we pay for that? That is really at the heart of what we talk about in this show, because many of us may not have to worry about estate taxes, but an equivalent of estate taxes is uncovered medical expenses. Medicare doesn't cover all the bills. Isn't that a shocker? If you in retirement are counting on Medicare taking care of all the healthcare bills, it won't cover that. But what types of bills are they going to be? We can talk about that. But this week, we really want to stay focused on estate taxes. But Brian, we have these stories that you and I are going to talk about. Mm-hmm. But the more important ingredient here is what's on your mind. You're the listener, the guy driving down the street listening to the show. What's on your mind? Are you thinking retirement? Do you have every retirement aspect covered? Or do you have some questions? Maybe you're just not sure that you're taking all the right steps. Maybe you're not sure what questions to ask your advisors. You're thinking about moving. You're thinking about investing. You're thinking about getting some legal planning done. What questions should you be asking? We know what questions the industries want us to ask, but will they really be the right questions for you to be asking, for you to be successful? Give us a call. So how do they call us, Brian?
That's right. We want to enlist you as a producer of the show. You help steer the direction of today's show, and all you have to do is bring your question to 206-421-1000. We're ready to take your phone calls. We have open lines right now at 206-421-1000. You have a question about retirement plan, Rajiv is the guy you want to ask that question to, and he'll be here for the whole hour. But now's the time to get your place in line on the telephones, because sometimes we get real busy on the show. So the number one more time is 206-421-1000.
And while we wait for the calls to go up, let's talk about the stories that we have. And the first story, Brian, we have today is Trump's new tax laws give the wealthiest families an estate tax gift. And the corollary, or the supporting document to that one, a story to that one, is death and taxes, big changes in the state of Washington. So these two big stories really exploded in the scene. And in the legal community, for years, we had been anticipating that, in Trump 1, the first administration, when he had increased the exemption amount, it was supposed to come down in 2025. That means by December of this year, it was supposed to sunset. And everyone was thinking, though, it's going to come down. There's no way that this country can afford not to have this tax. But that didn't happen. So how is that really going to impact you? When we come back after the break, we'll certainly be talking about that and much more. But if you have any questions, give us a call. 206-421-1000. That's 206-421-1000.
That's the number to call. We're going to get you in line, 206-421-1000. If you have a question for Rajiv, when Aging Options continues in just a moment. The buck doesn't stop here. Hi, this is Brian Calvert, letting you know that you can learn more by going to AgingOptions.com for blogs, videos, and the Aging Options portal. Visit AgingOptions.com for blogs, videos, and the Aging Options portal.
I'm not a wealthy person, but I'd like to leave a little something to my kids when I'm gone.
Actually, there's someone who gets first shot at your assets when you die, before your kids can even touch them. The tax collector and creditors.
I don't know much about estate and inheritance taxes. I've heard about changes in tax laws, but it's a little complicated, so I just try not to worry about it.
Far too often, the cost of probate and estate taxes forces children to sell off their parents' assets, leaving little for them.
I'd at least like for them to have this house. After all, they grew up here, and we'd like to keep it in the family. They say you can't take it with you. I just didn't realize it was the tax collector who said it.
The elder law attorneys at LifePoint Law understand probate and estate taxes. They know how to protect your assets and your legacy. You can trust LifePoint Law and Rajiv Nagaich. Call 877-ELDER-47. That's 877-ELDER-47.
Northwest News Radio traffic, sponsored by Northwest Crawl Space Services.
In the South Sound, I-5 both ways in between Lakewood and JBLM, less than a 10-minute ride. Looking mid-span Tacoma Narrows Bridge, light volumes both ways. Tacoma into Federal Way, northbound on I-5, an 11-minute travel time. Auburn into Renton, 10 minutes on 167 northbound. Same story, northbound 405 Renton to Bellevue. Bellevue into Federal Way, southbound on 405 and I-5, just under 25 minutes. Same story for Bellevue to Everett, northbound 405 and I-5. From the North Sound, Everton to Seattle on I-5 southbound, a 25-minute ride. Linwood to Seattle, you're looking at 14 minutes moving southbound. Now, construction I-5 northbound has you down to 2 lanes over the Ship Canal Bridge. This set up in place until Friday the 15th, and then that weekend a total closure and cleared by Monday the 18th. Also with this setup, know before you go, the northbound express lanes stay open 24/7. In the Northwest News Radio Traffic Center, I'm Karen Trombley.
Now, back to Aging Options, right here on Northwest News Radio.
And welcome back to Aging Options. This is elder law attorney Rajiv Nagaich talking all things aging. If you are thinking retirement, if you have retirement in any way on your mind, this is the show you need to talk to. Look, everyone is going to tell you that come to me and I'll give you advice. I'll give you advice. The advice that you get from this show is based from your perspective. Advice that you are not going to get anywhere else. Why not? Because following the advice that the pop culture gives you, that you're getting from every place else, the American society is working with a 70% chance that your retirement is not going to turn out the way that you want it to turn out. We know that empirically. Stanford University did this great study many, many years ago, and they figured out that 70% of Americans fail to live out their lives in their own home. When are we as a society going to wake up and say, that is not acceptable, that is not me. I did not work hard all my life just to see my retirement dissipate, paying for nursing home bills, and be shunted away into some care facility because I was no longer able to live my life myself. That is not information you're going to get anywhere else. And if you have any questions about any retirement planning, which is interestingly simple process to go ahead and go through if you know what questions to ask, but it's massively complex if you're struggling by yourself saying, I need to put my own retirement plan together, but how do you do it right? come to us, Aging Options, and we will show you how. Brian?
There's some interesting ways to reach out to Aging Options. One of the ways you can do it is by calling us now. You can ask your question right here on the show, 206-421-1000. But we also want to encourage you to make an appointment with Rajiv and the gang. It was fun. Saket was here a couple of weeks ago when we were doing the show together.
Yes.
And we equated your offices in Federal Way as kind of that one-stop shop, because you don't just look at one arena, you look at all of the arenas when it comes to that successful retirement, and you have everybody there in one location that's ready to talk with us. So you can make your free appointment to go in and see, and you can do that through the website. Or if you really want to get some great information in one fell swoop, we got to sign up for one of those seminars, and we have a lot of them coming up, don't we?
Actually, we do. I mean, this is going to be the seminar week. Every month, at the beginning of the month, we do seminars. And what is a seminar? It really is your free ticket to get good information about how to put retirement together. Brian, I'm on the computer right now, and if you are on the computer, if you happen to Google or Bing the word retirement planning, I promise you'll get about 4 million plus hits about retirement planning. And the very first one on Bing is Retirement Planning Get Ahead. It comes from Forbes. What does Forbes talk about? Money. How much money do you have? How do you invest money? Do you have the right long-term care insurance policy, etc.? Second one is UBS. What does UBS do? Money. And when you keep going down this list, 4 million hits, majority of them will be all about money. But in retirement, you and I as consumers know it's a lot more than money. I need to worry about how I approach healthcare. Should I get Medicare? Should I get traditional Medicare, Medicare Advantage? I need to figure out how much income will I have? When will I start Social Security? Should I have a Roth IRA in my bucket? Am I the right person to get a long-term care? All these questions. So when you look at retirement in its glory, you need to pull together a lot more than just money. $80 million was not enough for Casey Kasem for him to be able to live out his life at home. Why do you think your estate, whether it is a $400,000, $4 million, $10 million estate, why will that do any better than an $80 million estate that could not help Casey Kasem after he had dementia and the family just fell apart? He's not the only one. There's so many people. Come to a seminar. We got 4 seminars actually this week. Today, one is in Olympia. If you happen to be in the South End, just mosey on to we will be at the Hilton Garden Inn at 2101 Henderson Park Lane Southeast. Best yet, just go to lifepointlaw.com, just register there, and you can get the address there. Today at 11:30 in Olympia. Then on August 5th, we will be in Puyallup, 6:30 in the evening. August 7th in Federal Way, 6:30 in the evening. And then next Saturday in Bellevue at 11:30 in the morning. So we got 4 opportunities for you. And the best part of this, Brian, is it's free.
That's right. You don't. There's no admission. You don't have to get a ticket. It's nice to know that you're coming. So if you can pre-register, that's great. But you can always walk right in at the last minute. Rajiv doesn't turn you away.
Right. Yeah. You just register there at the desk and come on in. So we always have chairs for you. If you have any questions about retirement, do take time to go ahead and invest in yourself. Give me an hour, and I promise I will give you a way to look at retirement planning where you will be succeeding, not failing in retirement. But Brian, here's the other thing, though. I mean, not everyone is into seminars, right?
Right.
And so several years ago, we started looking at that and say, we get calls. I'm not into seminars. I just want to make an appointment. Well, I wanted to make it easy for you. So a few years ago, I think this is about a year ago, we started doing free assessment appointments. So you can go to lifepointlaw.com. It's right there. Will your retirement be a dream or will it be a disaster? You want it to be a dream, right? So why don't you just do an assessment? How will it be? And you can spend about half an hour with one of the people you'll be working with, and they will tell you all the areas that may need a little bit tightening. And if you're doing a great job, they'll just tell you, and you can be confident you're on the right track. But if you're not on the right track, at least you'll have a sense of what you need to do to get on the right track. lifepointlaw.com. You can either book an appointment for a free assessment, or you can just register to come to one of the seminars.
And you always tell us, Rajiv, it's never too late to get started. Some people, they get into their 60s and think, well, if I didn't start years ago, I'm toast. But it's still not too late, right?
No, it's never too late. I think that's there. Brian, let's get back to the stories. We talked about estate tax planning stories, and maybe this is something that you can muse about. Is this something I should worry about? So here's the lowdown of the whole thing. At the federal level, we changed the exemption limit to $15 million per person. What that means is, if your estate is under $15 million, there will not be any federal estate taxes. If your estate is more than $15 million, your estate will be able to leave the first $15 million totally tax-free. But everything above that will be subject to a 40% estate tax. That is something to be worried about. Now, the good news is majority of us don't have to worry about that, but there are plenty of us who've done a good job. We've been blessed to go ahead and have large estates, whether it's by an inheritance, whether it's by the grit of your own teeth. You've set up a business, you've done well in investing, you've got more than a $15 million estate. You need to do some planning. But even if you don't have a $15 million estate, there are many more people who have at least a $3 million estate. And starting July 1 of this year, July 1, 2025, the state of Washington increased the exemption from $2.193 million to $3 million. So that's the good news. But what's the bad news in the state of Washington? If your estate is more than $3 million, then the tax rates have been increased. The old rates used to be 10 to 20%. The new rates are 15 to 35%. And particularly states that are about $7, $8, $9, $10 million, they're going to see the 35% scourge. So be careful in the state of Washington. Just because you don't have a federal estate tax issue, you may have a state estate tax issue. And we should be talking about if you're blessed enough, if you're lucky enough to go ahead and have a estate tax problem, the good news is there is a lot of planning that you can end up doing. So what kind of planning do you end up doing? Even though we'll talk about the general ways one can attack the estate tax problem, really the right answer is for you to meet with somebody who does estate tax planning, and they can actually help you figure out what is the best strategy for you. And Brian, I know we are going to be coming into a break here, so why don't we take a break real quick? When we come back, I want to start talking about the solutions. If you have an estate tax problem, what are your solutions? And in the meantime, remember, if you have a question, give us a call, 206-421-1000.
206-421-1000. If you have a question for Rajiv this morning, we have open lines at 206-421-1000. We'll be right back.
Northwest News Radio traffic sponsored by Northwest Crawl Space Services.
Northbound on I-5 near Olive Way, a crash taking away your right lane has you heavy on the approach. And then after this, slow in the work zone. You're down to 2 lanes on I-5 northbound over the Ship Canal Bridge. Seattle to Everett, now a slight delay on I-5 northbound with a 27-minute travel time. On the east side in Bellevue northbound into Everett, 405 and I-5 northbound, 25 minutes. 405 northbound into Linwood from Bellevue, 15 minutes. And either way between Bellevue and Issaquah via 405 and I-90, less than 10. No added construction for the weekend, though a lane shift in place on I-90 eastbound between East Mercer and Bellevue Way Southeast until further notice. Bellevue to Renton southbound on 405, 10 minutes. And on the Valley Freeway southbound Renton to Auburn, same story, 10 minutes. Federal Way into Tacoma southbound on I-5, less than 15 minutes. In the Northwest News Radio Traffic Center, I'm Karen Trombley.
You're listening to Aging Options on Northwest News Radio. Here's elder law attorney Rajiv Nagaich.
And welcome back to Aging Options. This is elder law attorney Rajiv Nagaich talking all things retirement. You got a question about retirement? We probably have a better answer for you. We can probably tell you why the traditional thinking around retirement planning may not be what you want to end up following. But what is that non-traditional retirement planning? Well, guess what? Give us a call and we'll tell you what that is. But in the meantime, let's talk about estate taxes. Before today, I just want to focus on the estate tax issue. It doesn't impact everyone, but it impacts sufficient number of people. If your estate is more than $3 million in the state of Washington, here's the reality. When you pass away, the first $3 million is going to go to your children totally tax-free. Everything in excess of $3 million is going to be subject to a 15 to 35% tax. So on the one hand, this year we have increased the exemption from 2.193, approximately $2.2 million to $3 million. But on the other hand, we have increased the rates from 10 to 20% to 15 to 35%. So that's how it has worked out. At the federal level, I think the people who have more than $15 million, they have to worry about estate taxes, but it doesn't turn out that more than 2% of the estates in the United States are more than $15 million. So most of us don't have to worry about this. And I think we have been given, if you've been blessed enough to have large estates, you're there. So the question then becomes as to what do you do? What do you do to go ahead and plan around these estate taxes? And there are all sorts of strategies. And from the simplest to the most complex, here's how it goes. The first simple thing, and I'm going to focus mostly on state estate taxes because this is the state of Washington, one of 15 states where we have either an inheritance or an estate tax, and we do have an estate tax. So in the state of Washington, the cheapest, the simplest planning that you can end up doing, make sure that the day that you're taking your last breath, you don't have more than $3 million to your name. You can gift your money out. But isn't there a federal rule that says you can only give $15,000?
Say there's a limit there, isn't there?
The $20,000 limit? Yeah. But let's talk about that limit. This is where it gets complex, right? The limit is $20,000 per person, but no, that's not the real limit. The limit is $15 million per person. What are you talking about? I've always heard I can only give $20,000. Yes, you have, and that is correct. What is the correlation between $20,000 per year and the $15 million limit? Here's what it is. You are allowed to gift up to $20,000 to any one individual in any one given year, and there is no tax ramification. You don't even have to let the IRS know about the whole thing. So what happens if I gifted $21,000? Oh, then there's a reporting requirement. Because at the federal level, the most you can gift out is $15 million in your lifetime, not in 1 year, not to one person, but all in aggregate. When you're making gifts, they want to keep track of it, and you can only gift up to $15 million, either at death or while living, without having to pay any estate taxes. So the rule of the $20,000 is this. If you have gifted more than $20,000, you don't have to pay a tax, but you need to notify the IRS that I gifted more than what I was allowed to, and the IRS will send you a thank you letter. Thanks for letting us know. We have now reduced your $15 million limit by $1,000. You were allowed to gift $20,000. You've gifted $21,000. Your limit has now been reduced. $15 million limit has been reduced. 90% of my cases, this will never be an issue. So in the state of Washington, you got a $5 million estate. You're a single person. And you're saying, well, when I pass away, I'll be paying estate taxes. I don't want to pay any estate taxes. Well, okay, one of the simplest things you can do is to gift $2 million to your children while you're alive, or to whoever your heirs are. That's one way you can go ahead and do estate tax planning. Another way is you can leave money to a charity. The most amount of money you can leave to your family members without any estate taxes, you leave it to them. But any excess you can leave to charity. Anything that you leave to a 501c3, a recognized charity, is going to be a deduction against estate taxes. Well, no, not going to do that. I don't want to be gifting money to charities. I don't want to be gifting money to my children. I need to have control over my money. What else do I do? Well, another simple trick that we may end up doing is to calculate what potentially the estate tax liability will be and buy a life insurance policy. We don't need to keep the life insurance policy in our name, put it into a trust called an irrevocable life insurance trust. Now, the beauty of this planning is it doesn't eliminate estate taxes. You've just funded the estate taxes by paying a much smaller amount. Pretend for a second your estate taxes projection was going to be $1 million. We buy $1 million life insurance policy by paying somewhere between $200,000 to $300,000 in a single premium. So these are the simpler planning opportunity. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation. But more importantly, what planning have you done? We'll be talking about a concept called the SLAT, the Spousal Lifetime Trust. So when we come back, we'll talk about that. Should you look into that? Should you not?
The number is real quick, 206-421-1000. If you'd like to get on the line with Rajiv, ABC News is next.
ABC News, I'm Chuck Sievertson. No arrest yet, a day after a shooting that left 4 people dead at a bar in Anaconda, Montana. Hearing from the sheriff about the search for a man named Michael Brown, ABC's Melissa Adon.
Anytime you got, an active shooter still on the loose is going to be dangerous.
Police say the 45-year-old suspect lived next to the bar and are warning the public to stay out of the area. And if they see Brown, to not approach.
President Trump saying he's moving 2 of America's nuclear submarines in response to comments from a top Russian official, Dmitry Medvedev. He warned the U.S. leader not to play, quote, the ultimatum game with Russia. In Tel Aviv, President Trump's special Mideast diplomat Steve Witkoff met with hostage families, calling for an end of the war in Gaza and their loved ones' return. Witkoff saying the end of the war is close, according to a statement from hostage families. Trying to get food aid to people in Gaza remains chaotic. UN convoys have been repeatedly looted. This is ABC News.
When you need to know, Northwest News Radio, 97.7 AM 1000. Now, this hour's top local stories with Rich Johnson.
Police are investigating a threatening letter that was sent to Kenja Jones-Lowell, the chair of Puyallup's Planning Commission. The panel recently updated the city's master plan to exclude certain language about protecting diversity. The News Tribune reports the chair has not only received the threatening letter, but violent phone threats as well. Puyallup Police Captain Kevin Gill won't confirm the nature of those threats, though, citing the ongoing investigation. It's an uncertain future for area food banks as cuts to the federal food assistance program known as SNAP begin to take effect. Tyler Cunnington of Como News says tighter eligibility standards will hurt.
Parents with children over the age of 6 and adults aged 55 to 64 have to prove they work 20 hours per week or qualify for an exemption like disability. And if not, can only receive 3 months' worth of food in a 3-year period.
Also, Washington and other states will have to find ways to make up for shortfalls of as much as 15% of the former federal contribution. SNAP helps about 1 million people in Washington every month. If you live in the Bonnie Lake area, you probably know about this week's major internet outage, and now we know why. Xfinity and Comcast customers report being offline from Wednesday night through midday Thursday. A Comcast spokesperson told the News Tribune vandals are to blame. The company has now replaced the cut lines and service has been restored. A mild August day ahead as the forecast calls for sunshine and a high of around 77. Hazy and cloudy overnight, a low in the mid-50s. Bit cooler tomorrow, mostly cloudy and a high of 75. More of the same Sunday. Then back to work Monday under sunny skies and highs in the lower 70s.
Northwest News Radio traffic, sponsored by Northwest Crawl Space Services.
In the north sound, I-5 in between Marysville and Everett, a 10-minute ride either way. I-5 southbound Everett to Seattle, 25 minutes. Slower on the northbound side of I-5 with a crash. Northbound I-5 near Olive Way. On your right side, you're slow as you pass by. You speed up and then back down. It's slow through the work zone with only 2 lanes open on I-5 northbound over the Ship Canal Bridge. This is set up in place until the 15th. Southbound express lanes are closed with it. Now Seattle to Federal Way, 20 minutes south on I-5. Heading to the airport, 405, 518, and I-5. All routes are clear getting in and out, though you're jammed at the drop-off and pickup line. SeaTac to Federal Way, south on I-5, just under 10 minutes. And then Federal Way into the South Sound, southbound on I-5, 10 minutes to Tacoma. In the South Sound, Tacoma to Olympia, southbound on I-5, 29-minute ride. In the Northwest News Radio Traffic Center, I'm Kieran Trump.
It's the final week for Take the Benjamins or Take a Break. Every weekday, we'll give you a keyword, and all you do is text that keyword within 60 minutes, and you are entered. Each weekday, you could win tickets to see Bryan Adams November 21st at Climate Pledge Arena. If you're the big weekly winner, you get your choice to take the Benjamins, $3,000 in cash, or Take a Break. We'll send you on a trip to Japan. Listen and enter weekdays at 8:50, 9:50, 3:50, and 4:50 here on Northwest News Radio 97.7 AM 1000.
Need help? You've come to the right place. Welcome back to Aging Options on Northwest News Radio.
And welcome back to Aging Options. This is elder law attorney Rajiv Nagaich talking retirement planning. If you have retirement on your mind, you're in the right place. You can call the office. You can call here at 206-421-1000. You can drop by in one of the seminars we're going to be doing this week. We got 4 seminars lined up for you. And what we talk about in the seminars really is breaking the mystery of why retirement planning fails in America. Give me an hour of your time. Educate yourself. I promise you, you'll walk away a richer person. You'll walk away because the education you'll get, I promise you're not going to get anywhere else.
Well, and we always have new people joining the audience throughout the hour, Rajiv, and I think some people might have missed the opportunity that you actually have one today. You have one of these seminars today in Olympia. It starts at 11:30 this morning, right?
11:30 in Olympia today. Just go to lifepointlaw.com and you can register there, or simply you can just drop in up there. Go to lifepointlaw.com. You have the address up there. You don't even have to register it. You can get the address, show up. You can register at the event itself, and we'll be happy to talk to you. And I promise you, you will be happy you came, because it is, in the end, not anyone else's problem. Your retirement is your problem. It is your responsibility, really, to get it right. And you can keep doing the same old, which takes 70% of Americans who fail to live out their lives at home, or you can do life planning, which is coordinated planning, which you have a much better chance of being able to live out the life the way you had hoped to without becoming a burden to other people or running out of money. So today, Olympia, Puyallup, August 5th, Federal Way, August 7th, and then in Bellevue, August 9th. You can come to any one of these things. Nope, not going to do a seminar. I'm not a seminar person. Well, guess what? You've got another opportunity. You know, a few years ago, we started doing free assessment evaluations for people. And we put just a handful of these. We're pretty darn busy, but I recognize there are enough of you out in the audience out there saying, I'm not a seminar person. I'm not going to go to the seminar. Well, then go to LifePoint Law and book your free initial assessment evaluation. And what will you get in that one? You'll sit with somebody for about half an hour. We'll take a look at how you're approaching your health care, your housing, your finance, your legal. Kind of give you a sense that if you keep staying with what you have in place, you are probably going to have these outcomes as it comes to your ability to live out your life in your own home without becoming a burden. And what are the chances that you're going to lose a lot of money to uncovered medical and long-term care expenses? They'll tell you where your gaps are, and then you can decide which way you want to go, and then you can make an appointment to come by if you want to do anything further there. 2 different ways you can get started, but whatever you do, get started. Sitting in the sidelines is not a good plan.
LifePointLaw.com is the website where you go to find all this information. You can find out more about the seminars, including the one today in Olympia. LifePointLaw.com is also where you can find out more about scheduling that free assessment that Rajiv just talked about. Maybe you have a quick question right now and you're in the car and you're headed maybe to a Seafair event and you're like, I've always wondered, fill in the blank. Rajiv is here to take your questions at 206-421-1000.
And let's get back to the estate planning story. We talked about that the state of Washington, the state exemptions have been increased to $3 million, but the estate tax rates have also gone up to 15 to 35%. So if you have an estate tax problem, what are the easy ways you can eliminate or beat estate taxes? Well, number one, if you happen to have more than $3 million, gift the money. Only amount that is in your name, in your estate on the moment you die, that's going to cause an estate tax problem. So if you gift it out to your heirs ahead of time, then that eliminates that problem. What about using, there's another thing we didn't talk about, Brian. All these numbers we talk about, 3 million and 15 million at the federal level, they are per individual. So if you happen to be married, then you have 3 million for spouse 1, 3 million for spouse 2. All of a sudden you can give $6 million away. And I'll tell you, a lot of people don't take advantage of that. A lot of people pass away, leaving the money from the husband to the wife, from the wife to the husband. And when the husband or the wife, surviving spouse, dies, they only have $3 million. We lost the $3 million. But we could have easily put money into a safe harbor trust for the spouse. That money would be available to the spouse while the spouse is living. But when that spouse dies, that $3 million is not part of this estate.
So it's not that you're not living, or it's not that you're not leaving it to your spouse. You're just getting really creative and you're getting smart about how you're
doing it. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. You can then start creating some sort of. You can buy a life insurance policy. Another cheap way that you can do that is move to a state that does not have a state-to-state tax. In my opinion, that's a bad idea. I mean, you live in a state not to just have the lowest tax rates. You live in a state because your family is here, your life is here, everything is here. But if you're willing to move to a state that does not have state-to-state taxes, that's another way to beat it. Now let's start talking about some more complex issues. Some of you may have heard of strategies, charitable gifting strategies like CRATs and CRUTs and GRATs and GRUTs and all sorts of them. So what is a CRUT? It's a charitable remainder annuity or some sort of a trust that you do. It is a remainder trust or it is a lead trust. And what that means is this. I've got a $5 million estate. I'm single. When I pass away, I know my estate will have to pay taxes on $2 million. I want to preserve the ability to use some money, the $2 million that's in excess, that it gives me income while I'm living. But when I pass away, I don't want the $2 million to be part of my estate. Then you will use a charitable, some sort of a charitable trust, whether it's a lead trust or whether it's a remainder trust. Lead trust is where you're going to get income while you're living. Remainder trust is where you're deciding that, okay, all this money and that asset will go to the remainder beneficiary, which will be someone in my family. But while I'm living, the charity is the beneficiary. So you can use these strategies. Are they good strategies? They're good options for somebody. I don't know whether they're the best option for you or not.
Well, do you want the money or do you want the government to get your money?
Exactly. Right. Or somebody else to get the money. Right. So that's what you end up doing. Then there is something called the SLAT. So what the heck is a SLAT? Spousal Lifetime Access Trust. How about if you're a married individual, one of you takes your separate property, that's the key to the word, separate property, and you put it into the trust to benefit your spouse. While your spouse is living, the spouse can say, I want some income, I want some principal from this estate, from this trust for whatever I need. And really, that is going to be used for your own needs. But the spouse is the one who is going to have the right to demand the withdrawal. But this money that you put into the SLAT, the Spousal Lifetime Access Trust, is not part of a taxable estate.
Okay.
How cool is that?
That's really
the
cool.
Simplest strategy. You can have your cake and eat it too.
If you have a question for Rajiv this morning, 206-421-1000 is the number to call. 206-421-1000. When we come back, there are seminars planned for the coming week, including one today. We'll give you that information and tell you how to stay in touch with LifePoint Auctions, all as Aging Options continues. Hi, it's Brian Calvert thanking you for listening to Aging Options. For more great options to help guide your future, go to AgingOptions.com. That's AgingOptions.com and select blogs under the free Learning Center tab. AgingOptions.com.
You know, I'm not a wealthy person, but I'd like to leave a little something to my kids when I'm gone.
Actually, there's someone who gets first shot at your assets when you die, before your kids can even touch them. The tax collector and creditors.
I don't know much about estate and inheritance taxes. I've heard about changes in tax laws, but it's a little complicated, so I just try not to worry about it.
Far too often, the cost of probate and estate taxes forces children to sell off their parents' assets, leaving little for them.
I'd at least like for them to have this house. After all, they grew up here, and we'd like to keep it in the family. They say you can't take it with you. I just didn't realize it was the tax collector who said it.
The elder law attorneys at LifePoint Law understand probate and estate taxes. They know how to protect your assets and your legacy. You can trust LifePoint Law and Rajiv Nagaich. Call 877-ELDER-47. That's 877-ELDER-47.
Northwest News Radio traffic sponsored by Northwest Crawl Space Services.
Starting on the east side from Bellevue to Everett, north on 405 and I-5, a 25-minute ride. Same story, 25 minutes Everett to Seattle, moving southbound on I-5. A slight delay through the work zone, I-5 northbound over the Ship Canal Bridge with only 2 lanes open. With this, your southbound express lanes are closed and traffic is slow as you move through with the no express lanes. On the 520 bridge east from I-5 to 405, light volumes Place. And Bellevue to Federal Way via 405 and I-5 southbound, a 25-minute travel time. A 10-minute ride, 405 southbound Bellevue to Renton. And then Renton to Auburn on southbound 167, no problems. And in the South Sound, making your trip in between Tacoma and Olympia southbound on I-5, a 29-minute ride. Northbound trip is the same time. And Tacoma Narrows Bridge, no issues. In the Northwest News Radio Traffic Center, I'm Karen Trombley.
Now, back to Aging Options, right here on Northwest News Radio.
And welcome back to Aging Options. This is Rajiv Nagaich talking retirement today, talking estate taxes today. Also, just a reminder, you have some opportunities to go to one of the seminars that we're doing. The whole show is centered around you, how you're going to live out the rest of your life. Your neighbors, your friends, the people who are engaged in traditional retirement planning, they go from a financial planner to a lawyer. Maybe they put together an insurance policy after struggling to figure out which is the right answer. Should I get a Medicare Advantage plan? Should I get a Medigap plan? What the heck is the difference between the two? You never hear about Medigap plans. You only hear about Medicare Advantage plans. So you put that together, you find a doctor. Oh, the doctor is retired. Now you're looking for a new doctor. That's traditional retirement planning. Just talking about it should make your head hurt. But people who do life planning, right? Traditional people who do traditional retirement planning, 70% chance they're not going to be able to live out their life at home. 69% chance they will become a burden on their loved one while they're living. And almost 100% guarantee you're going to lose some of your money to uncovered medical and long-term care expenses. A few of us, you are going to get wiped out in the process. It's not because you didn't do the planning. It's because you did traditional planning, life planning. You are able to live out your life in your own home. Why? Because you had a bloody plan to make that happen. In your plan, you also said the amount of the money is less important. I just want not to become a burden on your loved ones. But what is your plan? Having a power of attorney? Having legal? Is that your plan? What does a power of attorney say? A power of attorney says that when you fall ill, your agents, whether they're your children, whether they are your friends, your loved ones, they will have to step up and do what they need to do. What will they need to do? Pay your bills, file your taxes, manage your money, take care of your house, your dog, your cat, your car, your neighbor. Oh, but I don't want to be a burden to you. Really, think about it. Think about it. Can you honestly look your agent in the eye and say, I am giving you this mandate that you're going to do all this stuff. Oh, but I don't want to be a burden to you. But you don't have to if you do life planning, if you do prospective planning. So what the heck is prospective planning? What is life planning? How do I increase my odds of not ending up in a nursing home against my wishes? Go to one of the 5 seminars. This is seminar week for us. You can go to lifepointlaw.com and you'll see the places where we are. Today at 11:30, I'll be in Olympia. On the 5th of August, I'll be in Puyallup at 6:30 in the evening. On August 7th, I'll be in Federal Way at 6:30 in the evening. And next Saturday, the August the 9th, I'll be in Bellevue at 11:30 in the morning. Go to any one of these seminars, and I promise you, I'll basically bare naked the honest truth about why retirement planning fails. Everyone wants to do, quote, comprehensive planning. What the heck is comprehensive about when I'm only going to focus on financial issues? How can you look at that and say that's comprehensive planning? Well, I've got comprehensive legal planning. What the heck is comprehensive legal planning? Having a will, trust, powers of attorney, is that comprehensive planning? No, comprehensive planning is when you take a look at the rest of your life and say, I want to live as healthy as I can, as long as I can, and I don't want to end up in a nursing home, become a burden, and die broke. Comprehensive planning will mean that you have looked at the reality that as long as you're healthy in America, you're never going to have to worry about any of these bad outcomes. It's only when you fall ill, that's when it happens.
Rajiv, it has been my experience so far in life that when I come across somebody who knows their topic well, who eats, breathes, and sleeps what they do, they know it so well, they have this passion about what they know, and because I don't know anything about it, sometimes it can be a little intimidating.
Yep.
I know that there's somebody on the other side of the speaker right now that is hearing your passion for the first time, and they're like, yeah, but I haven't even started yet. I'm so embarrassed. You're not going to make me feel badly, though, for making that call or coming into the seminar, are you?
Not badly. I think what I'll make you is a richer person with education. you will walk away, even if you do nothing, you will walk away with knowing exactly who you should pick as your financial planner, what questions you should be asking the financial planner, which they're not going to be asking you. How do you pick the right attorney? Is the Medicare plan that you're going to be picking is the right one? How do you use the Medicare plan so that you can stay healthier longer? All the questions that you're not being asked, all the information that is far more important for you to focus on, but it's not there. Look, I mean, this latest PBS show that I taped, and I was on stage and I was talking about retirement planning, and it just came at that time, pretty much, that the reason why people fail is not because of what they have done. The reason people fail is because of what they have not done, what they have not been even told about. So what is it that you're not being told about? That's what we talk about in the seminar.
We want to empower ourselves.
Right.
We want to do the right thing, not only for ourselves, but for our family, because we don't want to leave them holding the bag.
Exactly. Or our society also. I mean, think about it. I mean, there are very few people who are so self-centered to say, the heck with everyone else, give me. Right? But we do. When we fall ill, what happens? I mean, just recently, I had a client who ends up in a hospital, and the hospital calls me because she didn't have family. She had named us as a backup agent to a friend of hers. The hospital called the friend. The friend's phone number is disconnected. Can't be found. So they ended up calling us. And I beat feet went to the hospital. And I'm looking at this lady and saying, we can help you. You don't have to worry about going to a nursing home. And she was so grateful about the whole thing. Right?
That's wonderful.
But this is entirely possible if you do the planning ahead of time. If you don't do the planning, if you don't know who the right people are to pick, you're going to fall in the trap.
If it were me, I would start at lifepointlaw.com. That's where you can find out about the seminars, not only today, but this coming week. It's big seminar week for LifePoint Law, and you want to get involved. They're all over the area. There's one near you. I know it. Lifepointlaw.com is where you find out more and register. You can also make your appointment for that free consultation, that first visit to say, hey, I just need somebody to point me in the right direction. And Rajiv says, I'll do it free of charge for you. Go to lifepointlaw.com, make that appointment. You won't be sorry.
Absolutely. I think, you'll be happy you did. Listen, let's wrap up on the estate tax issue. I mean, estate taxes 2025 has been an unprecedented year. Both at the federal and the state level, the exemption limits have increased. So that means good news. You can have a larger estate and not worry about estate taxes. But the bad news, at the state level, the tax rates have gone up. So if you have more than $3 million, you don't need to sit on the sidelines. You do need to do some planning around the whole thing. And so the summary is there's a lot of planning opportunities that you have. But which is the right plan? Every single planning opportunity has a plus or a minus. That's why you have different ways you can do the planning. And your job should not be to go to the internet and read an article and say, yeah, that's what I want. Your job should be to go ahead and say, what I want are these outcomes. I want to minimize or eliminate estate taxes. Then go to some lawyer who understands all these different options, and they'll help you make the right decisions. And one of those people would be LifePoint Law. So give LifePoint Law a call, 253-838-3454. That's 253-838-3454.
Or go to the website, lifepointlaw.com. We still have a few minutes left of the show. If you want to get in a quick question, the number is 206-421-1000. We'll be right back.
Northwest News Radio traffic sponsored by Northwest Crawl Space Services.
In Tacoma and the South Sound, crash free in Tacoma Narrows Bridge, no issues. Seeing a slight delay I-5 southbound before and after JBLM. No crashes. Now, if you see a problem on the road, when it's safe to do so, text us 206-421-1000. Tacoma into Federal Way northbound on I-5, a 10-minute ride. Valley Freeway, no problems. Puyallup and north into Renton. Renton to Bellevue on 405 northbound, a 10-minute ride. Bellevue into Federal Way southbound on 405 and I-5, just under 25 minutes with traffic moving freely. And then Bellevue into Everett northbound on 405 and I-5, a 25-minute ride. You are slow with the work. I-5 northbound over the Ship Canal Bridge with only 2 lanes open. With this, you are heavy on the approach, and the southbound express lanes are closed, and traffic is slow on the southbound side with it. In the Northwest News Radio Traffic Center, I'm Karen Trombley.
And now, more Aging Options on Northwest News Radio with Rajiv Nagaich.
And welcome back to Aging Options. This is Rajiv talking estate taxes today, but we're also talking other issues. I mean, there are 2 other issues, Brian, today that I just absolutely love. The first one is the scam alert. Look, I mean, if you are retired, you want to pay attention to these types of things. If you are the family member of a retiree, you want to pay attention to this. There are so many scams that are out there today, and the AI is just making it easier for people to mimic loved ones' voices, their faces, their images, and people are getting sucked into it. And there is no good option anymore. I mean, once you lose the money, it leaves your bank account, it's gone, and that's not what you want to have happen. So I won't talk too much about that one. I want you to go to AgingOptions.com and then figure this out and take a look at this one. Read it, see what you think. Another article that I really liked was pretty whimsical, and thank you, Tony, for putting this up. Want to live to age 100? Don't ask centenarians for advice.
You know, I asked one time, and you know what he told me?
Yeah?
Smoke a cigar every day.
Yeah. And that's literally what this article is talking about, that, you know, when you talk to centenarians, most of these people who made it there, they probably don't have good habits, right? I mean, think about who's the actor up there of Oh God, who was the
George Burns, yeah.
George Burns. What was he doing?
Bourbon,
Cigar,
and he smoked a cigar.
bourbon, women, all sorts of things that are going on. And you should not be listening to George Burns. At no age is smoking a good thing. At no age is heavy drinking a good thing. So, you know, there's a great article for you to take a look at. There's common sense things that you can end up doing. Eat right, exercise, socialize, be part of it. I mean, just the common sense types of things. People get lucky. Some people have the genes, and they're going to live long enough. And this was an interesting, refreshing article, because I've always, over the years, looked at people who've lived to be centenarians and said, well, what can I learn from them? And this article kind of, you know, took the shine off a little bit. But take a look at it, see what you think of it. But most importantly, you know, folks, as you're listening to this show, as your Saturday is coming up, be careful with your future. You have the choice of making sure how your future is going to shape out. Take charge, do something with it, join us in a seminar, or just make an appointment to get an assessment. Thank you so much for coming out today. We so appreciate you being here. And as we always say on Aging Options, age on, everyone.
LifePointLaw.com is where you go for more information.
The preceding program was paid for by LifePoint Law and does not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of News Radio management or staff.
Hi, this is Brian Calvert letting you know the best way to learn about aging options is to go to a seminar. Go to LifePointLaw.com.